Hi guys, I'm back. Today I'm going to read 1 Samuel 17-22, Proverbs 10, and Psalm 134. Let's get started. Now the Philistines gathered their armies for battle, and they were gathered at Socoh, which belongs to Judah, and encamped between Socoh and Azekah in Ephes Dammim. And the Saul and the men of Israel were gathered, and encamped in the valley of Elah, and drew up in line of battle against the Philistines. And the Philistines stood on the mountain on the one side, and Israel stood on the mountain on the other side, and with the valley between them. And there came out from this camp of the Philistines a champion named Goliath of Gath. His height was 6 cubits and a span. And he had a helmet of bronze on his head, and he was armed with a coat of mail. And the weight of the coat was 5,000 shekels of bronze. And he had bronze armor on his legs, and a javelin of bronze slung between his shoulders. The shaft of his spear was like a weaver's beam, and his spear's head weighed 600 shekels of iron. And have you come out to draw it for? Why have you come? And his shield bearer went before him, and he stood and shouted to the ranks of Israel, why have you come out to draw up the battle? Am I not a Philistine, and are you not servants of Saul? Choose a man by yourselves, and then come down to me. If he is able to fight with me and kill me, then we will be his servants. But if I prevail against him and kill him, then you shall be our servants and serve us. And the Philistines said, I defy the ranks of Israel this day. Give me a man that we may fight together. When Saul and Israel heard these words of the Philistines, they were dismayed, greatly afraid. Now David was the son of Jesse of Bethlehem in Judah, named Jesse, who had 8 sons. In the days of Saul, the man was already old and advanced in years. The 3 oldest sons of Jesse followed Saul to the battle. And the names of his 3 sons who went to the battle were Eliam, the firstborn, and next to him Abinadab, and the third Shammah. And David was the youngest. The 3 eldest followed Saul, but David went back and forth from Saul to feed his father's sheep at Bethlehem. For 40 days the Philistines came forward and took a stand morning and evening. And Jesse said to David his son, take 40 brothers and ephah of this polished gold, and these 10 loaves, and carry them quickly to the camp to your brothers. As to take these 10 cheeses to the command of their thousands. See if your brothers are well, and bring some token from them. Now Saul and all the men of Israel went to the valley of Elah, fighting with the Philistines. And David rose early in the morning and left the sheep with the keeper, and took the provisions and went, as Jesse had commanded him. And he came to the camp as the host was going out to the battle, showing the war cry. And Israel and the Philistines drew up the army against army. And David left the things in charge of the keeper of the baggage, and ran to the ranks and went and greeted his brothers. And as he talked with them, behold, the champion, the Philistine of Gath, Goliath by name, came out of the ranks of the Philistines and spake the same words as before. And David heard him. All the men of Israel, when they saw the man, fled from him and were much afraid. And the men of Israel said, have you seen this man who has come up? Surely he has come up to fight Israel. And the king will enrich the man who kills him with great riches, and will give him his daughter, and make his father's house free in Israel. And David said to the men who stood by, what shall be done for the man who kills this Philistine, and takes away the reproach from Israel? Who is this uncircumcised Philistine? He should defy the armies of the living God. And the people answered him in the same way, so shall it be done to the man who killed him. Now Eliab, his eldest brother, heard when he spoke to the man. And Eliab's anger was kindled against David, and he said, why have you come down, and with whom have you left these few sheep in the wilderness? I know your presumption and the evil of your heart, for you have come down to see the battle. And David said, what have I done now? Was it not but a word? And he turned away from him to word another, and spoke in the same way, and the people answered him again as before. And the words that David spoke were heard. They repeated them before Saul, and he sent for him. And David said to Saul, let no man's heart fail because of him. Your servant will go and fight with this Philistine. And Saul said to David, you are not able to go against this Philistine to fight with him, for you are but a youth, and he has been a man of war from his youth. But David said to Saul, your servant used to keep sheep for his father. And when there came a lion about and took a lamb from the flock, and I went after him and struck him and delivered it out of his mouth. And if he arose against me, I caught him by his beard and struck him in his throat. And our servant has struck down both lions and bears, and this uncircumcised Philistine shall be like one of them, for he has defied the armies of the living God. And David said, the Lord who delivered me from the paw of the lion and from the paw of the bear will deliver me from the hand of the Philistine. And Saul said to David, go, and the Lord be with you. And Saul clothed David with his armor. He put a helmet of bronze on his head and clothed him with a coat of mail. And David strapped a sword over his armor. And he tried in vain to go, for he had not tested them. And David said to Saul, I cannot go with these, for I have not tested them. And David put them on. Then he took his staff in his hand and chose 5 smooth stones from the brook, and put them in his shepherd's pouch. His sling was in his hand, and he approached the Philistine. And the Philistine moved forward and came near to David, with his shield bearer in front of him. And the Philistine looked and saw David. He disdained him. He was ruddy and handsome in appearance. And the Philistine said to David, Am I but a dog that you come to me with sticks? And the Philistine cursed David by his gods. And the Philistine said to David, Come to me, and I will give your flesh to the birds of the air, and to the beasts of the field. And David said to the Philistine, You come to me with a sword and with a spear and a javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. This day the Lord will deliver you out of the hand into my hand, and I'll strike you down and cut off your head. And I'll give the dead bodies of the host of the Philistines this day to the birds of the air and to the wild beasts of the earth, that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel, and that all this assembly may know that the Lord saves not with sword and spear, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into our hand. And the Philistine arose and came and drew near to meet David. David ran quickly toward the battle line to meet the Philistine. And David put his hand in his back and took out a stone and slung it, and struck the Philistine on the forehead. And a stone sank into his forehead, and he fell on his face to the ground. David prevailed over the Philistine with a sling and a stone, and struck the Philistine and killed him. And there was no sword in the hand of David. Then David ran and stood over the Philistine and took his sword and drew it out of its shaft and killed him and cut off his head with it. And the Philistines saw that their champion was dead. They fled, and the men of Israel and Judah rose with a shout and pursued the Philistines as far as Gath and the gates of Ekron, so that the wounded Philistines fell on the way from Sharaim as far as Gath and Ekron. And the people of Israel came back from chasing the Philistines, and they plundered their camp. So David took the head of the Philistine and brought it to Jerusalem, and he put his arm in his tent. As soon as Saul saw David go out against the Philistine, he said to Abner, the commander of the army, Abner, whose son is this youth? And Abner said, Has your soul lives? Okay, I do not know. And the king said, Inquire whose son the boy is. And as soon as David returned from tracking down the Philistine, Abner took him and brought him before Saul with the head of the Philistine in his hand. And Saul said to him, Whose son are you, young man? And David answered, I am the son of your servant Jesse the Bethlehemite. As soon as he had finished speaking to Saul, the son of Jonathan was knit to the saddle of David, and Jonathan loved him as his own soul. And Saul took him that day, and would not let him return to his father's house. And then Jonathan made a covenant with David, because he loved him as his own soul. And Jonathan stripped himself of the robe that was on him, and gave it to David and his armor, and even his sword and his bow and his belt. And David went out and was successful wherever Saul sent him, so that Saul set him over the men of war. And this was good in the sight of all the people, and also in the sight of Saul's servants. As they were coming home, and David returned from striking down the Philistine, the women came out of all the cities of Israel, singing and dancing to meet Saul with tambourines, with songs of joy, and with musical instruments. And the women sang to one another as they celebrated. Saul struck down his thousands, and David his 10,000s. And Saul was very angry, and this saying displeased him. He said, They have ascribed to David 10,000, and to me they have ascribed thousands. What more can he have but the king? So then Saul eyed David from that day on. The next day a humble spirit from God rested upon Saul, and he raved within his house while David was playing the lyre. And as he did day by day, Saul had a spear in his hand. And Saul heard the spear, for he thought, I will pin David to the wall. But David evaded him twice. Saul was afraid of David because the Lord was with him, but had departed from Saul. So Saul removed him from his presence and made him a commander of 1,000. And he went out and came in before the people. And David had success in all his undertaking, for the Lord was with him. And Saul saw that he had great success. He soon feared for all of him. But all Israel and Judah loved David, for he went out and came in before them. And Saul said to David, Here's my older daughter Merab, and I'll give her to you for a wife. Only be valiant for me, and fight the Lord's battle. So Saul thought, Let not my hand be against her, and let the hand of the Philistines be against her. And David said to Saul, Who am I, and who are my relatives? And my father planned in Israel that I should be son-in-law to the king. And at the time of Merab, Saul's daughter should have been given to David, who was given to Adriel the Meholithite for a wife. Now Saul's daughter Michal loved David, and they told Saul, and the thing pleased him. Saul thought, Let me give her to her, that she may be a snare for him, and that the hand of the Philistines may be against him. Therefore Saul said to David, You shall now be my son-in-law. And Saul commanded his servants, Speak to David in private, and say, Behold, the king is delighted in you, and all his servants love you. Now then becomes the king's son-in-law. And Saul's servants spoke these words in the ears of David. And David said, Does it seem to you a little thing to become the king's son-in-law, since I am a poor man and have no reputation? And the servants of Saul told him thus, and so did David speak. And Saul said, Thus you shall say to David, The king desires no bride price except 100 foreskins of the Philistines, and that he may be avenged of the king's enemies. So now Saul thought to make David fall by the hand of the Philistines. And when his servants told David these words, it pleased David well to be the king's son-in-law. And before the time had expired, David arose and went, along with his men, and killed 200 of the Philistines. David brought their foreskins, which were given in full number to the king, that he might become the king's son-in-law. And Saul gave him his daughter Michal for a wife. But when Saul saw and knew that the Lord was with David, and that Michal, Saul's daughter, loved him, Saul was even more afraid of David. So Saul was David's enemy continually. And the commanders of the Philistines came out to battle, and as often as they came out, David had more success than all the servants of Saul, so that his name was highly esteemed. And Saul directed Jonathan his son and all his servants that they should kill David. But Jonathan, Saul's son, delighted much in David, and Jonathan told David, Saul, my father, seeks to kill you. Therefore be on your guard in the morning. Stay in a secret place and hide yourself. Then I will go out and stand beside my father in the field where you are, and I'll speak to my father about you. And if I learn anything, I will tell you. And Jonathan spake well to David and to Saul his father, and said to him, let not the king sin against servant David, because he's not sinned against you, and because his deeds have brought good to you. Well, he took his life in his hand and struck down the Philistine, and the Lord will great salvation to all Israel. He saw it and rejoiced. Why then will he sin against innocent blood by killing David without cause? Saul listened to the voice of Jonathan. Saul swore, as the Lord lives, he shall not be put to death. And Jonathan called David, and Jonathan reported to him all these things. And Jonathan brought to David to Saul, and he was in his presence as before. And there was war again, and David went out and fought with the Philistines, and struck them with a great blow, so that they fled before him. And the harmful spirit of the Lord came upon Saul, so as he sat in his house with his spear in his hand. And David was playing with a light, and Saul sought to pin David to the wall with the spear. But he eluded Saul, so that he struck the spear into the wall. And David fled and escaped that night. Saul sent messengers to David's house to watch him, that he might kill him in the morning. And Michal, David's wife, told him, do not escape with your life tonight. Tomorrow you will be killed. So Michal let David down through the window, and he fled away and escaped. Michal took an image and laid it on the bed, and put a pillow of goat's hair at his head, and covered it with clothes. And when Saul sent messengers to take David, she said, he is sick. And Saul sent the messengers to see David, saying, bring him up to me in the bed, that I may kill him. And the messengers came, and behold, the image was in the bed, the pillow of goat's hair at his head. Saul said to Michal, why have you deceived me thus, and let my enemy go, so that he is escaped? And Michal answered Saul, and he said to me, let me go, why should I kill you? And now David had fled and escaped, and he came to Samuel at Ramah, and told him all that Saul had done to him. And he and Samuel went and lived in Naioth. And it was told Saul, behold, David is at Naioth in Ramah. And Saul sent messengers to take David. And when they saw the company of the prophets prophesying, and Samuel standing his head over them, the Spirit of God came upon the messengers of Saul. And there is a prophecy. And it was told Saul, he sent the messenger. And there is a prophecy. And Saul sent messengers again the third time. And there is a prophecy. And he himself went to Ramah, and came to the great well, and that is in Second. And he asked, where are Samuel and David? And one said, behold, they are in Naioth and Ramah. And he went there to Naioth and Ramah, and the Spirit of God came upon him, and he went as he went, he prophesied until he came to Naioth and Ramah. And he too stripped off his clothes, and he too prophesied before Samuel, and lay naked all that day and all that night. Thus he has said, is Saul also among the prophets? And David fled from Naioth and Ramah, and came and said before Jun, what have I done? What is my guilt? This is why I sinned before your father, that he seeks my life. And he said to him, far from it. And you shall not die. Behold, my father does nothing either great or small without disclosing it to me. Why should my father hide this from me? It is not so. David cried again, saying, your father knows well that I have found favor in your eyes. And he thinks, do not let Jonathan know this, lest he be grieved. But truly as the Lord lives, and as shall live, there is but a step between me and death. And Jonathan said to David, whatever you say, I'll do for you. David said to Jonathan, behold, tomorrow is a new moon, and I should not fail to sit at table with the king. But let me go, that I may hide myself in the field till the third day evening. If your father misses me at all, then say, David earnestly asked leave of you, of me to run to Bethlehem, his city. For there is a yearly sacrifice there for all the clan. If he says, good, it will be well with your son. If he's angry, you know that harm is determined by him. Therefore deal kindly with your servant. For you have brought your servant into the covenant of the Lord with you. If there is guilt in me, kill me yourself, for why should you bring me to your father? And Jonathan said, far be it from me. If I knew that it was determined that by my father that harm should come to you, would I not tell you? And David said to Jonathan, who will tell me if your father answers you roughly? So then Jonathan said to David, come, let us go out into the field. So they both went out into the field. And Jonathan said to David, the Lord, the God of Israel, be witness, and I have sent out my father. About this time tomorrow, the third day, behold, if he is well disposed toward David, shall I not then send and disclose it to you? Should it please my father to do you harm? And the Lord do so to Jonathan and more, if I do not disclose it to you and send you away. Now you may go in safety, may the Lord be with you, and he has been with my father. If I am still alive, show me the steadfast love of the Lord, that I may not die, and do not cut off your steadfast love from my house forever. When the Lord cuts off every one of the enemies of David from the face of the earth. And Jonathan made a covenant with the house of David, saying, May the Lord take vengeance on David's enemies. And as Jonathan made David swear again by his love for him, for he loved him as he loved his own soul. And Jonathan said to him, Tomorrow is the new moon, and you'll be missed, because you see it will be empty. On the third day, go down quickly to the place where you hid yourself, where the manna was in here, and remain beside the stone here. And I'll shoot 3 arrows to the side of it, as though I shot at a mark. And behold, I will send the boy, saying, Go find the arrows. And if I say to the boy, Look, the arrows are on the side of you, take them, then you will have to come for, as the Lord did. It's safe for you, and there's no danger. If I say to you, Look, the arrows are beyond you, then go, for the Lord has sent you away. And as for the matter of which you and I have spoken, behold, the Lord is between you and me forever. So David hid himself in the field. And when the evening came, the king sat down to eat food. The king sat on his seat, and at other times, on the seat by the wall. Jonathan sat opposite, and Abner sat by Saul's side. And David's place was empty. And Saul should not say anything that day, for he thought something must have happened to him. He's not clean. Surely he's not clean. On the second day, Saul said to the day after the evening, David's place was empty. So Saul said to Jonathan his son, Why has not the son of Jesse come to the meal, either yesterday or today? Jonathan answered Saul, David earnestly asked leave of me to go to Bethlehem. And he said, Let me go, for our clan holds a sacrifice in the city, and my brothers commanded me to be there. And so now, if I have found favor in your eyes, let me get away and see my brother. For this reason he has not come to the king's table. And Saul's anger was kindled against Jonathan, and he said to him, You son of a perverse, rebellious woman, do I not know that you have chosen the son of Jesse to your own shame, and to the shame of your mother's nakedness? As long as the son of Jesse lives on the earth, neither you nor your kingdom shall be established. I will send and bring him to me, for he shall surely die. And Jonathan answered Saul's his father, and why should he be put to death? What has he done? But Saul hurled his spear at him to strike him. So Jonathan knew that his father was determined to put David to death. So Jonathan rose from the table in fierce anger, and ate no food the second day of the month, for he was grieved for David, because his father had disgraced him. And in the morning Jonathan went out into the field and to the appointment with David, and with him a little boy. And he said to the boy, Run and find the arrows that I shoot. As the boy ran, he shot an arrow beyond him. And when the boy came to the place of the arrow that Jonathan had shot, Jonathan called after the boy and said, Is not the arrow beyond you? And Jonathan called after the boy, Hurry, be quick, do not stay. So this boy gathered up the arrows and came to his master. But the boy knew nothing. Only Jonathan and David knew the matter. And then Jonathan gave his weapons to the boy and said to him, Go and carry them to the city. And as soon as the boy had gone, David rose from beside the stone heap and fell on his face to the ground and bowed 3 times. And they kissed one another and wept with one another, David weeping the most. And Jonathan said to David, Go in peace, for we have sworn both of us in the name of the Lord, saying, The Lord shall be between me and you, and between my offspring and your offspring forever. And he rose and departed, and Jonathan went into the sea. And David came to Nob, to Ahimelech the priest, and Ahimelech came to meet David, trembling, and said to him, Now you are alone, and no one with you. And David said to Ahimelech the priest, The king has charged me with the matter, and said to me, Let no one know of anything of the matter about which I send you, and with which I have charged you. I have made an appointment with the young man for such a place. And then what do you have on hand? Give me 5 loaves of bread, whatever is here. And the priest answered David, I have no common bread on hand, but there is a holy bread. If the young man kept himself from woman. And David answered the priest, Truly women have kept us from women. And David answered the priest, Truly women have been kept from us as always, and go on an expedition. The vessels of the young men are holy, even when it is an ordinary journey. How much more today will their vessels be holy? So the priest gave them the holy bread. There was no bread there but the bread of the presence, which is removed before the Lord, to be replaced by hot bread when the day is taken away. Now a certain man of these servants of Saul was there that day, detained before the Lord. His name was Doeg the Edomite, the chief of Saul's headsman. And David said to him, Why then have you not here a spear or sword at hand? For I have brought neither my sword nor my weapons with me, because the king's business required haste. And the priest said, The sword of Goliath the Philistine he be struck down in the valley of Elah. Behold, it is he wrapped in a cloth behind the effort. If you will take that, take it, for there is none but that here. And David said, there is none like that, give it to me. And David rose and fled that day from Saul and went to Achish the king of Gath. And the servants of Achish said to him, is not this David the king of his land? Did they not sing to one another of him in dances? Saul struck down his thousands, and David his 10,000s. So David took these words to heart and was much afraid of Achish the king of Gath. So he changed his behavior before them and pretended to be insane in their hands, and made marks on the doors of the gate, and let his spear run down his beard. And Achish said to his son, behold, you see that the man is bad. Why then you brought him in to me? Do I lack madmen that you have brought this fellow to behave as a madman in my presence? Shall this fellow come into my house? David departed from there and escaped to the cave of Adullam. And when his brothers and all his father's house heard, he went down there to him. And everyone who was in distress, and everyone who was in debt, and everyone who was bitter and Saul gathered to him. And he became commander over them. And there were with him about 400 men. And David went from there to Mizpeh of Moab. And he said to the king of Moab, please let my father and my mother stay with you. Do I know that what God will do for me? And he left them with the king of Moab, and they stayed with him all the time that David was in the stronghold. And the prophet Gad said to David, do not remain in the stronghold, depart and go into the land of Judah. So David departed and went into the forest of Hereth. Now Saul heard that David was discovered, and the men who were with him. Saul was sitting at Gibeah under the tamarisk tree on the height with his spear in his hand, and all his servants were standing about him. And Saul said to his servants who stood about him, hear now, people of Benjamin. Let the son of Jesse give every one of you fields and vineyards, that will he make you all commandments of thousands and commandments of hundreds, that all of you have conspired against me. No one discloses to me, or when my son makes a covenant with the son of Jesse. None of you is sorry for me, or discloses to me that my son has set up my servant against me, till I am aware that this day. And answered Doeg the Edomite, who stood by the servants of Saul, I saw the son of Jesse coming to Nob, to him like the son of Ahitub, and he inquired of the Lord for him, and gave him provisions, and gave him the sword of Goliath the Philistine. And the king sent to summon him like the priest, son of Ahitub, and all his father's house, the priest who had Nob, and all of them came to the king. And Saul said, hear now, son of Ahitub. And he answered, here I am, my lord. And Saul said to him, why have you conspired against me, you and the son of Jesse, and that you have given him bread and a sword, and have inquired of God for it, so that he has risen against me till I am late, as at this day? And Ahimelech answered the king, and who was among all his servants is so faithful as David. And who is the king's son and captain over your bodyguard and honor in your house? Is today the first time that I have inquired of God for him? No, let not the king impute anything to a servant or to all the house of my father. For your servant has known nothing of this, much or little. And the king said, you shall surely die Ahimelech, and you and all your father's house. And the king said to the guard who stood about him, stand and kill the priests of the Lord, because their hand is also with David. And they would not put out their hand to strike the priests of the Lord. And they knew that he fled and did not disclose it to me. But the servants of the king would not put out their hand to strike the priests of the Lord. And the king said to Doeg, you turn and strike the Philistines. And Doeg the Edomite turned and struck down the priests, and killed on that day 85 persons who wore the linen ephod. And Nob, the city of the priest, he put to the sword. Both man and woman, child and infant, oxen, donkey, and sheep, he put to the sword. And one of the sons of Ahimelech, the son of Ahitub, named Abiathar, escaped and fled after David. And Abiathar told David all that Saul had killed the priests of the Lord. And David said to Abiathar, I knew on that day when Doeg the Edomite was there, that he would surely tell Saul, I have occasioned the death of all the persons of your father's house. Say to me, do not be afraid, for he seeks my life, seeks your life. With me you shall be safe in safekeeping. Proverbs 10. The Proverbs of Solomon. A wise son makes a glad fellow, but a foolish son is a sorrow to his mother. Treasures gained by wisdom do not profit, but righteousness delivers from death. And the Lord does not let the righteous go hungry, but he thwarts the craving of the wicked. His life hand causes poverty, but the hand of the diligent makes rich. He who gathers in summer is a prudent son, but he slips in harvest is a son who brings shame. Blessings are on the head of the righteous, but the mouth of the wicked conceals violence. The mouth of the righteous is a blessing, but the name of the wicked will rot. No one wise of heart receive commandments, but a babbling fool will come to ruin. Whoever walks in integrity walks securely, but he who makes his ways quickly will be found out. Whoever makes the eye causes trouble, and a babbling fool will come to a ruin. The mouth of the righteous is a fountain of life, but the mouth of the wicked conceals violence. And hatred stirs up strife, but love covers all offences. On the lips of him who is understanding, wisdom is found. No, Rogers put the back of him in accent. The wise lay out knowledge, but the mouth of a fool brings ruin. The rich man's wealth is a strong city, the poverty of the poor is their ruin. The wages of the righteous leads to life, the gain of them will lead to sin. Whoever heeds the instruction is on the path to life, and he who rejects reproof leads others astray. The one who conceals hatred has language, and whoever utters slander is a fool. And words of many transgression is not lacking. And whoever restrains his lips is pure. The tongue of the righteous is choice over the heart of the wicked is of little worth. The lips of the righteous feed many, but fools die for lack of sin. The blessing of the Lord makes rich, and he adds no sorrow with it. Daring one is like a joke to a fool, but wisdom is pleasure to a man of understanding. Not the wicked dread will come upon him, but the desire of the righteous will be granted. When the tempest passes, the wicked is no more, but the righteous is established forever. When like vinegar to the teeth and spank to the eyes, so is the sluggard to those who sin. The fear of the Lord prolongs life, but the years of the wicked will be short. However, the righteous brings joy, but the expectation of the wicked will perish. The way of the Lord is a stronghold to the blind, but destruction to evil dogs. The righteous will never be removed, but the wicked will not dwell in the land. The mouth of the righteous brings forth wisdom, but the fires of the tongue will be cut off. The lips of the righteous know what is acceptable, but the mouth of the wicked what is perverse. Psalm 134. Come, bless the Lord, you servants of the Lord, who stand by night in the house of the Lord. Lift up your hands to the holy place and bless the Lord. May the Lord bless you from Zion. He who made heaven and earth. Now others start now. Unite to the Lord's prayer. Please bow your heads, our Father in heaven. Hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come. Your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us today our daily bread. Forgive us our debts, and forgive our debtors. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. For yours is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen. See you tomorrow. Bye.